raised for the streets.
The HPA R32. For me, it all began with Gran Turismo 4 and a SEMA competition that Marcel and HPA walked away with, cementing the car as a legend in the underglow era of the mid-2000s.
There's nothing left to say. Let's go.
And yes, that's Kazzer. You might remember him from this absolute banger from 2002. And 20 years later, we're finally here with an HPA R32 Mark IV Golf. This is one of the most robust VWs of the analog era. It's a car I've always loved. This is kind of one of those meet your hero moments, so I'm trying not to taint what I think the car should be and just drive it for what it is. We're gonna take it for a drive and we're gonna talk to the owner, Afshin, who is a tech at HPA, which makes this all the more special. So let's go for a drive and see how it does. Afshin built this car a few years ago and has since been daily driving it. This is his daily, but also in true HPA philosophy, I guess you could say, it is a monster at the top end. It should be, not only at the top end, but the mid-range punch, the area under the curve. I just love the idea that at the time, Volkswagen was changing the game. I was just talking to Marcel at HPA, their new headquarters, and he was talking to me about the original TT, and much like that car, the Golf R32 here, the original Mark IV R32, was the precursor to the modern Golf R, and it made significant headway in trying to challenge a little bit, kind of, I guess, as a byproduct, the Evo and the STI. It was not a direct competitor. This is a much heavier car, not a rally-focused car like those cars are, but a street monster, which those cars are as well. And of course, all-wheel drive. That was the big thing. Now, these cars are not light, anywhere between 3,400 pounds and 3,600 pounds, depending, of course, on the spec. Afshin actually imported this car from Japan. All right, so what are we talking? Big single turbo under the hood. It has to have drivability. That's what HPA is all about. We are going to turn on, oh yes, AC. Thank you, Afshin, for including that in your build. Oh my. I mean, on paper, what is there to love about the R32? The engine, 24 valve VR6, of course. The GTI had the 2.8 liter VR6. I've driven one of those. The biggest Achilles heel in that experience, from my perspective, was the shifter. It felt like a lazy, sloppy shifter out of the box. First improvement here, much better, huge pop out of the exhaust there, that's very welcome. Much better shifter. It's not perfect, it's a little bit light, I guess you could say. All right, let's punch it, 2,500 RPM, wow. Wow, really natural to shift, tons of torque. It's not overpowering though, there's no open wastegates.
This is Afshin, I'm a mechanic at HPA. This is my 2004 R32. I've been through everything on this car. Engine, transmission, Haldex, gearbox, you name it. On the best day, it can make almost 580 foot-pound of torque and almost 570 horsepower, which is very reliable. But I broke 2 clutch because this turbo, when it comes on boost, it comes very hard.
Despite the fact this isn't exactly a package you can buy from HPA, it's close to their FTX 500 kit in a lot of ways, but with a slightly bigger Borg-Warner EFR turbo that's used to feed that top-end punch.
I put the MET controller in it and always blending ethanol as well. Okay. So these are just a little few tweak So if you want to go to FTX 600, 700, we recommend it to get the head fully built, bottom end fully built. This is the stock bottom end, but fully head built. The head is technically, it's like FTX 600 or 700. Tri-flow cam and the Ferrera valve spring and titanium retainer. These are help engine basically rev on the higher RPM more smoothly and more precisely. The weak point on the VR6 engine is the rod bolt, especially if you rev it to like 7,000 RPM. You have to upgrade your rod bolt. Other than that, no, the bottom end is totally stock.
Zero torque steer, which I guess I would expect here. I'm getting a little bit better at downshifting. The revs drop fairly quickly, and the clutch is an on-off switch, sorry. So far though, that's the only thing that could be considered a compromise for the street. Everything else is really comfortable. The steering wheel's been reupholstered here. He's got away with the original Koenig seats that the R32 came with. These are amazing Recaros, brought up kind of to modern spec. Nice and firm. All right, let's run through these corners. Yeah, the torque rolls on hard at 3,000, but it still feels like it's building past 5. All of this on a stock bottom end. Heel towing's nice and easy. Virtually no push when you get on throttle coming out of a corner. This thing is an absolute animal. Wow. The steering is incredible. It's not really any dead spot on center. It's very responsive. It's got a good weight to it. Wow.
Attention, reduce speed.
Attention, reduce speed. I got it. So yeah, Afshin has this on 4 different boost settings, all the way down from 7 PSI to just kind of a mild street setting where you can easily kind of spool up the turbo real quick, all the way up to 22 pounds of boost. So I'll let you in on a secret real quick. I've been driving thus far on that low 7 PSI setting, so I could have, you know, torque rolling on a little smoother for the corners, but I know you guys came here for the full 22 pounds of boost, so here we go. Wow, man. I'm honestly more impressed with the KWs.
Yeah, it takes whatever you throw at it.
That's ridiculous. Yes. All right, full boost.
Attention, reduce speed.
Roll on from 3,000. I mean, the boost is impressive. It's incredibly hot out today, about 30 Celsius. So we're at about 18 PSI versus 22. Ridiculous torque. What's impressing me most though, the KWs. We hit huge bumps back there at speeds I will not say, but the car just handled it so well. It's one of those cars where 4th almost feels like it pulls harder than 3rd. Just ridiculous.
And I do not recommend go to 22 PSI at all because you're risking of basically blowing your motor.
The auditory experience you get from the VR6, I mean, the new 4 cylinders have no match for this. There is no comparison in the visceral experience you get with this car. And you know, you could say, hey, the original Haldex here, not original, but early Haldex could be a downside. You know, we have the Haldex controller in here, so right now it's set kind of at an auto setting, but it will react with steering input and whatnot, and of course you can send up to a maximum of 50% torque to the rear, and this one's been upgraded with LSDs, so it is, I mean, as planted as this could get. It's as improved as this could get without completely overhauling the system. And here it's just a little bit, I mean, it's not a little bit, it's way more connected than something like a Mark 8.
So I'm running KW V3, which is by far is the best suspension you can get for road car. I don't know how to describe it. At the corner is tight, but at the Autobahn it's super soft, and you don't compromise your daily kind of like comfort.
Right.
But if you push it to the corner, you feel, oh no, I have something to support this corner.
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing about the suspension, this car has full PowerFlex Black Series bushing all around.
Okay.
It's gonna be a little bit harsher than usual, but I love it. And with the tweak of suspension and the sui bar, this car looks and feels like a rear-wheel drive car. It has a very happy tail. So this is fully built transmission by HPA. So it's hardener gear and longer gear. Into the normal case, we don't have any support for the case or any of those stuff, and we've proven it. Never had any problem with the transmission.
Really short gears from the factory. I was afraid it was going to make it kind of a little bit undrivable on a tighter B road like this, but it's not. It's really good. Wow, yeah. Throttle response is incredible. You get on the throttle, torque hits, I think there's about to be understeer, and then there's not. The front tires just grip. Do you feel the weight here? Yeah, it's still a heavy car. Does it feel like an Audi S4? No.
I do, but I cannot tell you on the camera. I do a lot of story. As far as I can say, it was on the closed road McLaren 720S, if I'm not mistaken. It was kind of like a drag race. I was ahead of him by kind of like length of 2 cars, and I had a chance to test it on the closed road again with the Hayabusa, turbo Hayabusa. I was just right on his tail. So it's a fast car for a street. It's not by any means, this is the race car. I call it super street car. What I really like about what we're doing here, it's the kit that proven it works for everyday living. Every time you go on the street, no matter what time of the day, how hot, how cold it is, you get like very reliable kit. It might be not sweet for everyone, but your engine bay is clean, you have a support from the HPA, you pay for what you get.
Unlike a lot of new cars, I feel like I'm sitting down in the chassis versus on top of it, which is a great thing. I mean, they could have made this car for me. If I had custom tailor-made this car, it would have been like 3 inches shorter for the roof height, maybe an inch. I mean, talk about differences in the last 20 years. A big change that they've made is how they cool the cars. So this has got HPA's air-to-water intercooler, or air-to-water cooling system integrated into the intake manifold. So shorten the run where air is getting boosted into the engine to improve throttle response. Not to mention that you reduce additional components. It doesn't have a huge front mount air-to-air intercooler, and it just is a little bit more efficient in that sense. Everything to get the torque ramp up as low as possible, but not just like ramp up and then flatten out. You know, it still has to carry. It's a VR6. I want to still rev it out. So the sweet spot is something that HPA is really good at, just finding that middle ground of, hey, I still want a punchy mid-range torque that I can use light to light, but when I hit the highway and allegedly, like Afshin was talking about, you know, go head to head against a turbo Hayabusa or a McLaren 720S, I want to be able to carry those Autobahn speeds. I mean, that's the DNA of this car. I have a very vivid memory, you guys. Maybe you care, maybe you don't. As maybe some of you guys do as well, of the original Golf R32 in Gran Turismo 4, like I mentioned in the intro. My specific memory from that period of growing up before I could actually drive, when all my driving was in the virtual world, was driving the HPA Golf R32 at the Seattle circuit. Why is that important? Well, the Seattle circuit has a ton of bumps. It's got huge curbs. I remember very distinctively coming out of some of these corners, hitting the curbs and hitting the corners, and then realizing that on the way out, I had so much more room in the racing line to continue my exit. So I could keep pushing it further and further than what I initially thought or expected from the car. And that's in a video game. And this car, now driving it in person, although not the same car, it still has that just incredibly desirable characteristic of being able to take bumps and confidently knowing that the car is not going to be upset when you're tossing it around. I mean, this thing is dialed. You know, sometimes you want to meet your heroes. I always want to meet my heroes, because regardless of whether they live up to your expectation or not, I always learn something. And, you know, maybe a manufacturer could have kind of, you know, bolstered the appearance of what a car was going to be, and then it doesn't quite live up to that. Or maybe they were a little bit conservative and the car actually gives you more than you expect. And to me, that reminds me of HPA and I walk in there, the incredible passion that Marcel, Johnny F. Sheen, the whole team there has with these cars. It comes through everything they do. All right, you guys, just finished up at HPA. It's been a number of years since I've filmed with these guys. They just got to their new location here in Langley. It felt fitting to get back into one of their cars, especially because the Mk8 VW is no longer going to be offering that with a manual transmission. And it's been about exactly 20 years since the R32 Mark IV was in Gran Turismo, and the guys at HPA just absolutely took huge advantages of every opportunity around that time, and that's kind of snowballed into where they are today. I guess just what I want to say is it's an ongoing battle, of course, as you guys know, analog versus the new kind of digital stuff. And I think the car I just drove is, for me at least, peak VW analog stuff. I think it's probably my favorite modern VW I've ever driven. So thanks, Marcel. Thanks, Johnny, again. Thanks, F. Sheen, and everybody here at HPA for the seat time. And yeah, we'll see you guys soon.